But I used to say it. I've been saying it. I used to say it regularly in presentations and stuff. I point out that if you take Jewish monotheism and some of the stories from the Torah and from the Talmud that were circulating among Jews during the time of Muhammad, and you take some Christian stories, some of them heretical and so on, and you grab those, and then you take some ideas of the pagans about, this paradise of eternal deflowering of hot babes and stuff, and you take some basic pagan practices like walking circles around the Kaaba and kissing the black stone and everything. If you take everything that is right around Muhammad in 7th century Arabia and you roll it up into a ball, it's Islam. It is exactly what you'd get if you took everything that was available during the time of Muhammad, you combined it all, and you tried to avoid some of the contradictions between the things. In other words, we can't have Jesus being divine because of this and this and that. Anyway, you just take it all and roll it up into a ball, you get Islam. So definitely some plagiarism going on there. But don't take my word for it, ladies and gentlemen. So vocab, we're going to take a look at the Quran real quick, couple verses from the Quran. And then you can tell us what you've been finding.
You taking me off the screen for a second?
What?
Are you going to put something on the screen? Well, I'm going to try. I don't like the focus of my camera mainly.
No one cares about the focus of your camera. The focus is fine.
But it's just you going to be talking. I just want to try to fix this. I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm about to have these verses up on the screen. So there.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. There you go.
Okay. All right, guys. Let's go through these verses. There are more. But try to get your minds around these verses. I recommend, matter of fact, I just shared a picture of these on Twitter a little while ago with the relevant portions underlined. And I point this out. Because I have Muslim apologetics books. In fact, I don't know if it's the most widely circulated Muslim apologetics book in history. It could be. It's either Towards Understanding Islam by Maududi, which I've been handed multiple times on multiple college campuses by Muslim organizations. Towards Understanding Islam by Maududi. And the other most popular one is A Brief Illustrated Guide to Understanding Islam. Those are the ones I've seen all over the place for a long, long time. Anyway, in Towards Understanding Islam, I read that. Massive. Matter of fact, I was so shocked by reading the amount of deception in Towards Understanding Islam. That's what really clued me into the fact, like, my goodness, Dawah is just pure deception. That's all it ever is. It's just deception. It's just lies. But in Towards Understanding Islam, Maududi says that when Muhammad would give one of his revelations, Muhammad would receive a revelation in Mecca, and then he would stand up to recite his new revelation. And when he stood up to recite his new revelation, according to Maududi, the unbelievers would have to cover their ears and run away screaming because they were so convinced that it's obviously had to be from God that they would have to run away in fear to avoid converting because of the power of the Quran. And the reason I looked at that and said, my goodness, this is deceptive, is because you go to the Quran, you go to the Sirah, everywhere you go, the unbelievers were constantly mocking Muhammad and his revelations, saying, this is pathetic, Muhammad. Come on. Are you serious? You expect us to believe this nonsense? And so did Maududi know that? Of course. That man wrote his own massive commentary on the Quran. He knows these verses. So why is he going around saying that the reaction of the pagans is to run away screaming and covering their ears from the power of it? Because Dawah is deception. That's all it is. But check out these verses, ladies and gentlemen. I recommend jotting down a couple of these references and sharing them everywhere. Remember, guys, I constantly say, whatever your level of knowledge, if you want to help expose Islam, you don't have to go out and learn all of it at the beginning. You can learn one thing and share one thing. This is an example of one thing you can learn and share it everywhere, right? You can share this on YouTube. You can share it on Facebook. You can share it on Twitter. And whenever someone's boasting about how great the Quran is and how clearly it's from Allah, just share some of these verses. Share some of these verses, because they present a problem for the standard Islamic narrative. But let's check out.
Okay, so again, faster than we can say mental hospitals, disabled dead kids, and hammers, David keeps bringing up the same stupid arguments against Islam over and over again. So anyways, here again, the unbelievers 1400 years ago, and David Wood commits the genetic fallacy. What is the genetic fallacy? The genetic fallacy is attacking the source of the claim instead of the claim itself. David Wood and the unbelievers also commit something called the post ergo propter hoc fallacy, which is the thing before caused the thing after. But anyways, what David Wood and the unbelievers 1400 years ago that the Quran is responding to fail to realize is that there are true stories found in these Old Testament and New Testament apocryphal works or apocryphal works or non-canonical works in the Bible, and the Quran is confirming these true stories by repeating and revealing them. So there are true stories, according to even Christian scholars, found in these, Old Testament or New Testament apocryphal works or these apocryphal works. Even Christian scholars admit this. And the Quran is confirming that there are true stories by repeating or revealing them. See the Quran chapter 25 verse 6, where the Quran says it's Allah revealing these stories as opposed to Prophet Muhammad repeating or plagiarizing off them. The Bible does the same thing too. It plagiarizes or copies off the apocryphal material. So when David Wood is he's criticizing the Quran for doing this, well, the Bible does the same thing. The Bible copies off apocryphal material. For example, Jude chapter 1 verse 14 copies off 1 Enoch chapter 1 verse 9, which is not found in the Old Testament or the Bible that we have today. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 4 also copies off 1 Enoch chapter 17 verse 2. There are many other examples of, the Bible, both the Old Testament and New Testament, referencing or copying or plagiarizing off apocryphal or non-canonical works. But these two examples will suffice for now. So when David Wood is criticizing the Quran, he's being inconsistent or he's being a hypocrite, because the New Testament does the same thing. The New Testament copies off 1 Enoch, which is again a Old Testament apocryphal work, which isn't found in the canonical Old Testament that we have today. So David Wood is committing, or he's being a hypocrite, because the New Testament does the same thing. It copies off these apocryphal works. The same thing the same argument that David Wood is saying can be thrown back against the Bible more forcibly or in a more problematic manner. So, we see that, the Bible does the same thing. So the Quran and the Bible can be repeating true stories found in these apocryphal works. There's nothing unbelievable about that. So, I think the Bible or the New Testament, the authors of the New Testament are copying true stories found in these Old Testament apocryphal works, or what they think is true stories found in these apocryphal works. And Christian scholars are forced to admit that there are true stories found in these apocryphal works, because their own New Testament is copying or plagiarizing off these Old Testament apocryphal sources. So the Quran could be doing the same thing by repeating true stories found in these Gnostic or these apocryphal Old Testament and New Testament apocryphal works. There could be true stories, and the Quran is repeating true stories found in these apocryphal works. There are true stories found, anywhere. Even the New Testament, like Paul plagiarizes off pagan poets because Christian scholars are forced to admit that there could be truth is truth no matter where it comes from. So even Christian scholars are admitting that the Bible or the New Testament copies off pagan poets and Old Testament apocryphal works. So if Christian scholars are admitting that there are true stories found in these apocryphal works, and there's nothing wrong with the New Testament repeating those true stories, why can't the Quran also repeat true stories found in these apocryphal works? There's nothing wrong about that. But regardless, David Wood is being inconsistent. Any way you look at it, David Wood's being inconsistent because the Bible or the New Testament does the same thing. So, if David Wood wants to argue like an atheist, he needs to point the finger back at the Bible, which he won't do, which is again why we Muslim apologists say David Wood's inconsistent and he's being a hypocrite, because those arguments backfire against the Bible or the New Testament more forcibly. But anyways, this is just one of the many videos that I'm going to be making to refute this claim that the Quran copied off apocryphal works, because this argument can backfire or backfires against Christians who make this argument. Stay tuned, more videos coming up ahead.